guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. So as you may be aware, there are three general classes of immigration in Canada. There's economic immigration, which includes business applications and skilled workers. There's sponsorships, which includes spousal, parents, grandparents, children. But today we're going to talk briefly about refugees and protected persons, which are in the same class of applications. Refugee applications can be a very difficult, complicated process. It can be a long process, but people could fit into that class of application if it's the best one for them. So today Tom will discuss briefly about the process, timeline, what is a refugee, and things like that.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. I'm happy that you have mentioned briefly because it's a very complex subject.
Lengthy topic.
Yeah, and we don't believe we can say everything that is involved in this subject in just a couple minutes. I think my idea is just give a general idea. Who is a refugee? Who is a person in need of protection? The difference between both. And also, who is not a refugee? So, a person that is having economic difficulty in the country with high inflation, or it's unemployed, or something else, cannot claim refugee status. So those are not protected. Or someone that is facing environmental displacement, as with an earthquake or something similar, also cannot have a base for a refugee claim in Canada, for example. Canada recognizes the conventional refugees, that is usually people that was forced to flee the country or the place they used to live based on race, religious, political opinion, nationality, or social group they belong. And there is also person in need of protection. There are those ones, they don't face a general hardship in the country, but it's something that just apply to that person. So I'm trying not to get very confused with the difference, but usually a conventional refugee, I'm not saying it's going to have a easy process, but it's more clear because there is a filter that was done before. Sometimes there is assessment in the country, sometimes the situation in the country or in the region is well known. It's easy to know what is happening in that place, and when it's a person in need of protection, it is so specific to that person. Way more proof has to be shown in a way that say, okay, this person, it is a person in need of protection.
And that makes perfect sense, because if it's a person who's being persecuted because of, say, their nationality within a certain region, as you mentioned, there could be well-known news articles or things about that specific topic. But someone who needs protection, it could be some person or some small group of people who are after this person, but there might be no documentation of this.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into too many
Sure, yeah.
details because I know it's hard. But even though in that example that you just talked about, person persecuted by a small group, it's not enough. Because if this person can be in the same country but in another region and be protected by the government, the states, the local police, they don't have a base for claim refugee status in Canada. So this is what makes the process very difficult. You have to build this process with proof of everything that you are claiming.
And you have to prove that you can't go back to the country. You have to leave the country.
Exactly. So it's not something that you can, okay, I'm have a problem today, but maybe tomorrow I'm not gonna have, or oh yes, I'm afraid to go back to the country, but once you give me, or once Canada give a PR, the person decides to go for vacations in that country. And I know why you are smiling. It's because happened before, and that is a reason to revoke the PR based on a refugee claim. So when you make a refugee claim, this is a very serious situation, and it's going to be taken by our government or any administrative division that is going to decide on that very seriously. So there is a couple of steps involved. I don't want also give a lot of details, but most of those process they're gonna face claim, a written one. So they have to written down everything that is happened, all the situation, probably also have proof of everything. They gonna go through an interview before CBSA or IRCC. CBSA, it's the one that's gonna give the form. Usually if they apply at the board, they have other options to apply if they're already here. But anyway, we are trying to be more generic as possible. Interview, and then they go to Immigration Refugee Board for a decision. So what happens in those situations if you have a denial in one of the stages? You're gonna have legal options to appeal or present other information, but it's not that clear, and sometimes the process is complex and you need professional help. It's not easy to navigate by yourself, definitely.
I think, like you said, maybe the borderline may not be very clear, crystal clear. It's not like we have like examples that those people are eligible or not eligible, or like economic classes. IRCC lists out those minimum requirements for you to meet, whereas this refugee claimant or protected person status, like all very like can be subjective, and then based on like fear that the individual has. But I mean, obviously they will probably look at the country's situation and stuff, but it's going to be very difficult and very complicated process to go through.
Yeah, in general, Canada and its government, it's committed to protect people under human rights. So we are a democracy, and we recognize the human rights. So, and we recognize that we have to protect some people. But at the same time, what I would like to highlight here, it's refugee is not an option for immigration. When you claim refugee, it's because you don't have any option. So you are leaving the place that you used to live, because if you don't do that, you're probably gonna die. So it's not an immigration option.
Right, so it wouldn't be someone who's not eligible for express entry saying, oh, I have no options, I'm not eligible for express entry, I'll make a refugee claim.
No, it definitely doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I can see why people sometimes think like that, and they take advantage of the process in a wrong way, and they don't think about the consequences that are gonna come for sure in the foreseeable future. Because what the government understands, it's okay, if you are a person in need of protection, if you are a real refugee, and you have this process that takes so many steps, is sometimes bureaucratic, while you're waiting for the process, the government allows you to work and study in Canada. So I think most people that have this wrong idea about the process think, okay, this is an option. I just claim refugee, I get my work permit, I start to work legally, and I'm gonna be okay. But it's not gonna work like that, because that's gonna come back to bite you in the end, because every refugee claim that is denial, it's also subject to a removal order, and there is consequences for your removal order. So probably you're not going to be able to come back to Canada, and this 1 year, 2 years that you're waiting and studying or working, it's not going to help you anyway.
Right, I believe that work experience, for example, doesn't count as Canadian work experience if it's done well, claiming a refugee application.
Another thing that happen quite often, it's people that are under refugee status. They think they can apply for express entry, for example. They say, oh, I qualify for express entry, and can I apply? No, because once you are under refugee process, you're claiming refugee status, you cannot apply for economic programs at all.
I think you said it best by saying it's not an option. It's more like you have to do it. There's no choice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not an option for immigration. It's not, okay, I can apply for this or that.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you have an option, refugee is not the right application for you.
Yeah. Even the other two classes, like skilled worker versus spousal sponsorship, sometimes there is an option between those two, but not for this case.
Not for refugee. It's we are talking about very serious situation. So usually Canada is committed, and there is several not government organizations, but organizations that work with the government to provide service to refugees, and it's very important. So it's people that probably have some trauma. They are having a very hard life, and they need this extra support to become a fully functioning citizen in this country. And it's in the end, it's what we want. We want these people to stay here, stay safe, and move on with their lives as best as they can.
So, like, could we give maybe some easy examples to our viewers, like what kind of group of people may be considered, likely be considered as a refugee? Like, let's say someone like supporting a political party that is, that is like chased by the other party that is in power, something like that. Could we like give our viewers some examples for refugees?
In this case, yes. Why I'm so hesitant to say anything? Because at this point in history, I've never seen as much discussion about freedom of speech when it's not freedom of speech. When you don't have freedom of speech, you cannot say anything, and if you say, you go to jail, you are going to be tortured, or you're going to be murdered. So it's not that you cannot say something and someone you cannot say because someone is not going to agree, or it's going to prove that you're wrong. Yeah. So this is part of the discussion. This is normal. This is okay. The problem is when you say something, you face serious consequences from the government, from someone that is ruling that region, that country, in that situation.
Or even organized, criminal gangs but of course the state is not willing to protect, you know, their citizens.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know how hard it is
Yeah.
to prove to
Yeah.
prove that situation, even though with internet, all the information we have available. So if you're not protected in one state, region, province of their country, but you are protected in another one, you don't have a base for
Mhm.
refugee claim.
Mhm.
So it is hard. It is hard. It is hard to prove what has happened to you. But once you're a conventional refugee, you have pretty much the support of United Nations. They do those kind of work. So there is assessments in those countries. We pretty much know the situation. So if you go now to the UN High Commission for Human Rights website, you're going to see the list of the countries, and each country is going to be rated, assessed. Then you can consult, and it's most of the time it's part of the process. We show that to someone that's going to decide here on your case. Hi guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you have any questions, just send us an email in this address here and we're gonna assist you.